Okay. So anyway,
Wah, wah.
uh, Star Trek Prodigy is very colorful.
Star Trek Prodigy is family-oriented Star Trek.
Star Trek Prodigy is for the next generation.
Star Trek Prodigy proves that there is definitely more than one way to tell a Star Trek story.
Factual. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, the podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to.
But you still can.
You
Especially
probably should. Yeah. Today we're talking about Star Trek Prodigy, of course, which has just been released on Netflix. So check that out. We're going to talk about it and so many other things with regards to this first episode in just a moment. But before we do, we'd like to introduce you to a couple people, one of whom is a planetary scientist and professional Martian. It's Tanya Harrison.
Hello, glad to be back.
Welcome
We've
back.
also got everybody's favorite actor, Rico E. Anderson.
Hey, always great to be back and hang with you all and nerd it up.
Great to have you back.
All the way from Duke University and occasional Star Trek science advisor. If you don't believe he's at Duke University, check out his sweater. It's Dr. Muhammad Noor.
I'm actually there right now. Always a pleasure to be on Fallingtower's Watch the First of Things. And I have a
And
Star
my
Trek
name-
Prodigy poster right here, too. Can't really
Hey.
see it very well.
Oh, yeah, I see it. And my name is Ryan T. Husk, and I decided to wear a shirt that's in the Prodigy color palette
Ah,
as best as
Well,
I could.
at least Murph's color. It's
And there's the pinks and purples and blues. This fits. You
Works.
watch. All right, and of course we're doing
All right.
Prodigy. We are doing Family Month, so this is perfect for December. It falls right into Family Month. It's a family show. Check it out on Netflix. This is our way of celebrating and helping to kick off the big move to Netflix. Tell all of your friends if you've never seen it, or if you've never seen Star Trek, or if you're raising kids, or if you're feeding grandma, whatever it is, put Prodigy on. Check it out. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating, please, and a nice review. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get into this. First things first, Muhammad's going to tell us what's next.
We're in a predicament, but less so than usual. This is where we each predict what each other thought about the show, after having seen it. And I will also note this is Ryan's favorite part of the show.
All true. It is actually my favorite. Muhammad and I have known each other for a few years, very closely. Tanya and I, we've known each other, maybe a couple years, but very little, but I feel like we're like cousins. That's what it feels like. Rico and I have known each
From the
other too
asteroid
long.
belt.
It's been 10 years and 2 months since he and I met. Great dude. Muhammad and Rico know each other well. Tanya and Muhammad, pretty okay. Rico and Tanya, it's going to be a crapshoot. Who knows? Just met. So we're going to make our
just met,
predictions.
so, yeah.
Muhammad,
She might want to fling me out of an airlock by the time this is over. So
maybe. Muhammad, I predict that you liked this show very much. I predict you've seen it before, and you liked it then, and you like it now. Tanya, I predict you. It's tough to know if you actually have seen this show before, if you were looking for an excuse to finally get around to watching, because you're very busy, what with space exploration and stuff, being an actual Star Trek human. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you have not watched it. No. You heard there was Janeway in it, so you did watch it. And so you have seen it, you liked it, and you liked it again. Rico, I predict you liked it. You loved it. You want some more of it. Easy. What about you, Muhammad?
Ryan, I'm not sure if this is one that's really for you. You might be kind of lukewarm. No, I'm totally kidding. I think it's pretty safe to say I'm very confident that actually all three of you guys have seen this before, watched it again, and we're happy to watch it again and really liked it a lot. I think I'm just going to say that for all three of you. So I'll pass the baton to Tanya.
oh man. Well, I know Ryan and Mohammed, you're huge Trek fans, so I think you loved it. Rico, I don't know. I don't have a good read on you yet, but I was saying before we started, like your whole setup is very sci-fi. So I'm gonna say that you were into it as well.
What do you think, Rico?
Okay. Ryan, I think you loved it. I think you really, really loved it. Mohammed, I think you really, really loved it because I feel like you nerded out in the way that your job on Star Trek allows you to nerd out in a very specific way. And I think you really appreciated a lot of what was a part of this episode in terms of just all just I think you nerded out big time consulting wise in this and or at least your brain did if you didn't consult in this. But I think you really enjoyed it. Tanya, I don't know you, but something tells me you love the hell out of this. So um and you really appreciated what was done here with this yet again another really cool approach to Star Trek.
All right, everybody, in the live chat and in the comments below, make your predictions. Do you think these four tough critics liked this first episode of Star Trek? Myself, Mohammed, Tanya, Rico. Make your predictions now. Take your time. No rush. Dr. Noor here is going to buy us a little bit of time by telling us what this show is even about.
Do my best. So young Dal RL dreams of escaping the prison colony he's known most of his life and comes close when mysterious Prisoner Zero causes a major distraction. The overseers of the prison colony threaten Dal with helping. Oh, actually, I wrote that wrong. Threaten Dal and ask them to help him catch Zero or else face dire consequences. Dal grudgingly agrees, but when he's in a lower level mining, he stumbles across a Federation starship sealed in the rock. Dal assembles a group of prisoners to steal the starship, but then is captured and is manipulated into revealing both its and Zero's location. Following an extended fight and flight sequence, he and his new crew are able to escape, along with a prisoner of their own, the progeny of the prison camp master. Da da da.
Nice. All right. That's it.
I fumbled up at the top there for a second.
Now it's time for Mohammed's favorite part of the show. I'll just bet.
Oh, yeah. This is my favorite part. So this is the one we like to call Expect Kitchen, where we spend a little bit of time on what you expected before you saw this show, both the first time, if you've seen it before, and this most recent time, and what you actually get when you watch the show. Sorry for punching you there, Rico. Or as Ryan likes to say,
guard up when you do that, man, because somebody can always come back at you like that.
Oh yeah, no, not fair. Or as Ryan likes to say, we like to compare and contrast what we expected with what we actually got.
I do love saying that. All right. So first things first, Dr. Noor, before you watch this first episode of Star Trek Prodigy, entitled Lost and Found Part 1 and 2, what did you expect, if anything?
So I'll give two answers. I'll give before I saw it the first time and before I saw it this most recent time. So before I saw it the first time, all I knew, I remember hearing about this show coming as the Nickelodeon Star Trek show. And honestly, I'll say I was a little nervous. I was like, oh no, I'm a little scared what this could be. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I was afraid it was going to be like really, really silly or really, really basic or something like that. It's kind of hard to say what I expected the second time, because since I'll just say I knew exactly what to expect the second time. And so I went in without those preconceptions. I'll just leave it at that, because otherwise I'm going to give away what I actually got.
Whoa. What about you, Tanya? Before you watched Prodigy, what did you expect?
I hadn't really read much about it other than hearing that Janeway was going to be in it. And so my immediate thought was, like, in what capacity is that going to happen? And as someone who, I would say Voyager was my initial big hook into Star Trek when I was a kid, when it was first airing. And then, my favorite series evolved over time, and DS9 won out as I got older. But the Captain Janeway is probably one of the hugest influences on like teenage Tanya's life choices, basically. So thinking that, oh, we have something geared toward kids with a return of Captain Janeway, like this could be really amazing. So I went in completely unaware of anything other than it was going to be for kids, and Captain Janeway was in it.
Nice. Rico E. Anderson, you usually don't like Star Trek. What did you expect before watching this first episode, if anything?
Great. Thanks, Ryan. Now you got all of Trek just thinking that I'm just a big old Trek hater, and now I got to do damage control. No, I expect, this was a tough one because I've seen it before, but seeing it the second time, one of the things that I really was unclear about was, well, after seeing it the first time, or before seeing it the first time, was what was this going to be all about? Was it going to be another kids type program that would have nothing to do with Trek as a whole, 50 plus years of Trek? What was it going to end up being? How is this going to play forward with all the other Trek that we know, love, have seen, witnessed, what have you? I expected it to be something that was going to deliver, but I was still very unclear as to who it was going to deliver to. And yes, I know that it is geared towards kids, but with Star Trek, it's always leaned towards adults as well, because we're big old kids at heart, because we love this so much, and that's never left us as far as us being just big old kids in a sci-fi candy store. So
there was a band called Candlebox in the 90s. You just reminded me of.
Was it really?
Candlebox, early 90s. Really one good album, and then they kind of petered out. Anyway, the point is that Far Behind was a song, and You, I think, were their big. Anyway, moving on. The point is, what I'm trying to say here is that what I expected before watching this first episode, now I had seen it once before, back in October 27th of 2021, I think is when it first aired. Aired spelled A-I-R-E-D, not the double R's and the E. So I remember back then I was very skeptical, because I'm one of those guys that's like, what the heck? What? This looks like cartoon. There's too many colors. Why is it? What is, Well,
I was just going to say, and I'm about to cross universes here. There are other shows like that like from Star Wars, which really do have things that just lean towards kids. And there's no question that, hey, this is for little Joey and little Susie. So, there was a little concern that maybe it might lean in that direction. And it's not a bad direction at all, but it does really, really say, hey, this is for the little ones. And this may not have anything to do with everything that we previously know and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I think with a lot of people, that's where a lot of the concern may have come from. Not so much comparing it to Star Wars, but comparing kiddie versions of other franchises, like with Lego or with some of the other shows that have been produced within those universal titles from other franchises.
All very true. So I was super skeptical. Very skeptical. But then I watched it. I was pleasantly surprised. Fast forward, well, the first time. The second time, I was like, all right, Prodigy, prove that you're good again. I wasn't really skeptical. I knew what to expect. I knew I was going to like it. But did I? Well, now we're going to find out what we actually got. Dr. Muhammad Noor, upon viewing this first episode, what did you actually get?
Oh, I totally loved it both times. I mean, I have a whole set of notes on why I love them. First of all, I like that it was kind of one of those, not quite a cold open, but like a very action-packed open, and I like that, because I mean, it was not something where it's just Susie's talking to Danny and they're having a chat. Like, no, it's like it's moving. I like that. Actually, I remember one of the comments I was going to say earlier on when I was talking about what I was expecting too, one of the comments after I saw it the first time is, this reminds me of like a good Disney Pixar movie. I remember saying that after the first time. I was like, yeah, this was like a movie and that quality, you know. I like the reveals of the characters. I felt like we were introduced to them in a way that felt real. It didn't feel forced. You know, we have a sense of what Dal is like. We have a sense of what Progeny, who we know now as Gwyn, is like. You know, and you know, a little bit less on Jankum Pog, but we got some hints of him too, and so that was great. Overall setup for, you know, why they have this ship, because I had heard that these kids have a ship, and I remember thinking like, what? How would kids have a starship? So we, you know, there was a good story for how they have that and what they're off to do. It was an easy follow. So in that sense, it was good for kids that you know, they would feel like they were following this whole thing even without having followed the 800 episodes of Star Trek that came before it. That, you know, you could just dive right in, like, and at the same time there were little nuggets for those of us who are Trek fans, like, oh look, there's a Kazon, oh look, there's a Cation, oh look, there were things for those of us who were in there, but they were not essential. So like, it was just bonus. It was like having extra icing on the cake for those of us who are already in there. I only had a couple of nitpicks, and they're all like very, very focused nitpicks compared to the overall thing. I mean, just, I really love the plot. Oh, and I forgot the musical scoring. Whew. I mean, I think this might be my favorite of the theme musics for all the Star Trek series from all time. I mean, I love the Prodigy intro. Yeah, my nitpicks are very tiny, kind of like the you know, this is typical for almost all cartoons, like the falls that people would have when they were falling, they're like, they would never have survived. You know, that kind of thing happened a lot. That's okay. It was a little bit funny how the protostar was hidden so close to where they're mining, and just at that moment they cut through and found it. You know, but whatever. These are all like trivial things in the grand scheme of what was honestly an excellent pilot, I would say. So,
Mohammed, with just quick piggyback on that, with the fall, that's one of the things that caught me too, because there was the thing where, like, I think Dahl fell off of the thing, and like, he's falling on straight rock hard concrete, and he's just like, all right, let's go. You know, just like, yeah,
I mean, maybe his species is just really resilient or something.
Yeah, and Rico, you sound like you've never watched a cartoon before. This guy.
Hey.
Well, Tanya, what did you actually get upon viewing this first episode?
I'm playing on what you were saying about the color palette. I thought it was visually very striking, and I will admit I don't watch a lot of cartoons or children's television. I never even did when I was a kid, so I can't really compare this to like other children's shows that are out right now in terms of the animation quality, but I was blown away with just how good it looks. Like, I think you're right, Mom, and it looks like a movie. I could see this on a big screen, and I have a feeling the color palette was probably very intentionally chosen, because, you know, sci-fi stuff I think inherently tends to skew toward boys. So having something where you have a lot of these pinks and purples brought into it, I feel like if I was, you know, 10 years old, I'm not really sure actually what the target age audience is for this, but if I was 10, I feel like I would have thought the color palette of this was very cool. Especially, I completely just blanked. Murph, is that the little little snail guy next to you? Yeah, like that color combo, I feel like I would be all over as a 10-year-old girl. I think that I didn't know, like I said before, how Janeway was going to come into it. So the Janeway reveal was pretty cool. Like, okay, this seems like a novel way to incorporate this. But yeah, without having to know any setup, having watched any Star Trek beforehand. So it seems like a good balance of something for your kids to come in not needing any prior knowledge, but enough to keep the parents engaged, who are, I assume, are probably bringing their kids in to watch this because they're Trek fans. They're like, let's sit down and watch this. And it felt like a lot of little good messages spread out through it too, like, you know, not judging a book by its cover. When you have the reveal of Rock Talk, who gives me very Full Metal Alchemist vibes, like the brother that's trapped in the robot. Like similar kind of voice when you watch like the English dubbing of that. Yeah, and so pretending I haven't seen any more episodes than just this one, it felt like it was really setting it up to, okay, this is something where we're going to get like good Star Trek values infused into this for a kid audience, which is, I think, a really good influence at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Rico E. Anderson is also a great influence on kids. What did you actually get upon viewing this first episode of Star Trek Prodigy?
I really loved it. I love the artwork. I love the animation artwork. And I love that type of artwork in general. I've seen it before in other things, but it was great. I love the introduction of the characters. I love that it did not follow your traditional again, way of telling a story within the Star Trek universe. And of course the Easter eggs. I mean, even first time seeing the Kazon,
Yeah.
upon seeing this the first time, you're like, where is this taking place? Is it taking place in the Delta Quadrant, or did the Kazon eventually find their way to the Alpha Quadrant? What's going on? So there was that, and it was cool because you got very little Easter eggs, but just enough to make us go look at that, oh, I see what they did there, all that. And then of course just the whole, I don't know, the writing was great, the whole execution, the story, the intro, just cutting straight to the chase, action sequences, the introduction of the ship, and of course, like most Star Trek nerds, looking at the ship and trying to look at the things to compare to other ships that we've seen, and hey, who doesn't love the pew pew button? It's like stuff like that, cool stuff like that. And yeah, I agree. Of course, the Janeway program coming in and helping to round out everything, and of course, seeing or hearing Kate Mulgrew's voice again was always, it's always a beautiful thing. And it was just a wonderful kickoff to this series. It was a lot of fun. It was a fun race around everything, and just very action packed. We I did see a couple of, like, little, what I felt like could have been a Star Wars nod, but maybe not. But just in terms of some of the setups, and a couple of pieces of dialogue that were thrown out there. But I appreciate that. I mean, look, every writers copy from writers all in stories all the time, so there's nothing new. So those nods, those things that they took care to kind of throw out there, and especially for nerds to appreciate, was very well appreciated. I enjoyed it.
For sure. So this is where I'm going to drop the hammer down and be a real tough. I'm going to be Roger Ebert here, everybody. So I remember when we first watched it, I say we because I watched it for the Seventh Rule, the podcast with Sirach Lofton, where we reviewed it. And I have the same impression as I did then, which was, of course, I went into it very skeptical and thinking like, it's not going to be for me. It's, just again from the key art. But then I quickly realized, and it starts off very foreign to us as Star Trek fans. Usually things start off on a ship, or hey, Captain Jones, you are now going to be the new captain of this ship. Like, we recognize that. We're familiar with that, but we're not familiar with some unrecognizable alien running around on some crazy planet, animated. But what this is it's a story dropped into the Star Trek universe. It's not necessarily like a straight Federation story, a Federation starship story, which we're used to. We have the Star Trek universe. Here's this particular story from this particular group of aliens in this particular part of space. And they're going inwards rather than traveling outwards. They're traveling towards Federation. And the scoring was amazing. And I remember the very first time I heard the theme song, like Muhammad, I was like, do you guys realize how good this theme song is? It was immediately top 3 for me. Which
Amy Melomad.
Yeah, great stuff. It was shockingly good, the theme song, and the scoring. That's Nami is the scoring. Theme song, I can't remember, Michael something or other, Giacchino, something. Forgive me. But I just the scoring amazing throughout. The theme song, like that is really good. The artistry, the character arcs, right? Just in this first episode, you're already starting to see an arc, from Rock Talk not having a voice and seeming like just some big goon to being an innocent little girl with gumption, and everybody already has these tiny little arcs, and we see where we're going. But let's just get into it and talk about the most difficult question of all, which is, Muhammad, who is your favorite character in this first episode?
Rock Talk. Well, and I think even for the first episode is Rock Talk. But I actually can I come back to something that we discussed earlier. So Rico made the comment about Star Wars. And I remember actually when this first came out, that was something that on social media a lot of people were saying like, oh, blah blah blah, it's more Star Wars than Star Trek. Honestly, I think they made the right choice in this case because I mean, one of the things is you remember like one of the issues that the original series Star Trek had when it was going to come out with the pilot with the cage was that it was too cerebral. Now, if you're going to aim for kids, you're going to need to put something in there that's going to be able to draw them in before you start going into these sort of longer thematic sort of things. And I think the way they did it was perfect. Well, like let's get these people attached to the folks, attached to the story, and then we can go into these, broader themes and things like that. And there were hints of the themes already in there. So I actually think that was not a fair criticism to start with, but it was more action packed than others. And in that regard, it was a little bit more Star Wars like than most of the other intros, most of the other pilots for Star Trek series. But I think they made exactly the right call. But to your question, Rock Talk. I love Rock Talk.
What about you, Tanya? Did you have a favorite character?
I mean, I feel like I should say Del because I can like cosplay with the haircut. Usually the sides are bald. I just got to go to a barber again. But I also think Rock Talk because, I mean, how can you not? Like, she's so adorable.
Just want to hug her, don't you?
Yeah.
Rico E. Anderson, why is your favorite Dreadnought?
Actually, it's not. I was a Doll fan. Doll. I like Doll. I like his whole, just his whole rebel attitude and just him trying to figure it all out and wants to get out of there. He wants to see the universe. He wants to get out of his current situation. And you can also tell that he wants to improve upon himself. It made me want to follow his journey as things move forward. So I gotta agree with Muhammad with you also as far as the music is concerned. It was so great. That theme song has a very Disney vibe to it too, and of course kids. That's a great draw as well. So definitely shout out to the composers on that. But yes. I'm a doll head. Here we go.
One other thing too, in terms of, I think Rock Talk was my favorite character, but I think the beginning of arc wise, I love the beginning of the arc for Gwyn, for the progeny.
Yeah.
Because it was a very interesting start. Like, so there's somebody who is in a pretty good position for us, we can tell, but seems not very satisfied and seems to want to do things a little differently from what's there. So it was an interesting start to an arc there. So I'll put that as a close number 2.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the character development there for sure.
Yep. Actually, Tanya, well, no, we'll ask that after. My favorite, in this first episode, I think I was most intrigued by Dreadnought, actually. I was saying it as a joke, but then I thought about it. I was like, well, actually, that was intriguing. And the Diviner, who was played by, everybody knows him from Lord of the Rings, or at least I do, John Noble. So that was pretty amazing to see that. But I was also very intrigued by Jankum Pog because he's a Tellarite, so I recognized that, and he was funny and interesting. Later on, not to give too much away, but later on, I was like, oh my God, that girl that plays Rock Talk is incredibly talented. They struck gold with her, Riley. Unbelievable. So that's kind of a wishy-washy way of saying like I've got like 3 or 4 people that I'm impressed with for different reasons, But
Fair.
Tanya, have you seen all of the episodes?
Is that a spoiler for the last question?
No, it's not, right? Is it? I don't know. Is it? I don't know.
It kind of feels like it is, but that's okay.
Then we don't.
I can't remember how many I watched. I think I made it through the first 5, and
Oh,
it wasn't
Stopped at the wrong
from. Oh, I
time.
won't. I won't continue my thought there, I guess, because I think it'll tie to your later question. So no, I have not finished season 1 yet.
That is
Mostly
interesting.
because, as you said, I'm very busy.
Right. So,
Right.
all right. Yeah, what do you
I
got?
knew that you would like Jacob Hogg because you're a bit of a Tellarite fan in general.
oh, a Teller fan. That's true. You played a Tellerite.
Right, TS.
Did
Oh,
you?
that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. And if Tanya doesn't know, you can tell her, right? Okay. So anyway,
Wah, wah.
did you guys have any moments that really stood out to you as like your favorite moment or a favorite thing that happened or a favorite aspect that really just makes this thing pop for you?
I had one that hurt, which was the comment where when Gwyn actually was prodding a doll, she said, "At least I know what I am." Like, ooh, ouch! That was that was a punching below the belt there on that one.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I like the description of doll as mildly intelligent and talks a lot.
Yep, that was good.
You know what I really liked? And this is a very subtle thing, but because we've seen 50 plus years of it and we've known about it, we were exposed to it. When they were trying to fix the shields, and right when Dahl was about to get stabbed, the shields went up, and we saw the shields, and we saw kind of like the distance between the ship's hull and where the shields, began, and
Yeah.
that was really cool because for 50 plus years we knew there were shields, but we're actually seeing it go down. We're seeing it, and that was cool. That was a cool. I enjoyed that. I really like that. I love those type of attention to detail when it comes to things that we know, and it's always been a part of what we love about this franchise. The shields. It's small, but it meant a lot to see that. It was cool. It was cool.
By the way, I did look it up. The theme music is Michael Giacchino or Giacchino. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's definitely an Italian name. Tanya, did you have something that jumped out at you that you really loved?
I liked some of the little injections of humor that didn't feel over the top despite it being a kid's show. Like all the little warning video that was playing when Dahl first meets Rock Talk, I thought was really cute.
That was fun.
As a geologist, maybe biased toward that, but that made me like live.
That was great because it showed one is like the buddy system prevents somebody from floating away, but it also prevents somebody from falling off a cliff. That was a fun. Yeah, I did like all those little details as well. And I love the color palette. We already mentioned that. The music, the color palette, the voice talent is fantastic. No spoilers on a final score though, because it's time to get into something that's also very important. As Muhammad puts his clipboard down, he knows exactly what's going on. Tanya Harrison, let's talk about you for a moment, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So
I was not in this episode of Star Trek Prodigy, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, you will be in one someday. So everyone,
they can work you in.
There you go. Muhammad, make that happen. You know, Star Trek people.
Everyone kind of knows you as Tanya Mars, but I hear you are going to the moon. What's up with that?
Yeah, so I think everybody on the internet associates me with Mars, pretty much what I've been doing for my whole 15 plus year career at this point, which I don't feel old enough to say that, but I counted, and this year is 15 years since I have started working on my very first Mars mission when I was just a little baby scientist. I'm probably way older than everybody thinks I am. But now I'm branching out, decided to diversify a little bit. I'm working on Canada's first moon rover. So this is slated to launch no earlier than 2026. We just had our first in-person science team meeting a couple weeks ago or so at the Canadian Space Agency. Canada has a space agency. It's out kind of near Montreal, near an airport in the middle of nowhere, but it's there. Most people don't know Canada has a space agency. So we're all super excited that Canada is sending its first rover to the moon. I think we're mostly known for like the Canadarm on the space shuttle and the space station. It's on the back of our $5 bills. If my wallet was nearby, I'd like hold up an example. And we're about to send an astronaut to fly around the moon next year, Jeremy Hansen, with NASA's Artemis mission. So it's going to be the first Canadian to fly around the moon.
Nice.
And then we're going to land on the moon with this rover. So lots of cool stuff happening in space in Canada right now.
Wow. That's
So
freaking
cool.
amazing. That's
Tanya, are you going to send up anything Star Trek to the cap?
Some Molson ice.
Oh man, I wish we had. So all the rovers have these little calibration targets on them. And one of my old bosses at my very first space job, actually, we were building the cameras for the Curiosity rover, and he laser etched a little design that he called Joe the Martian. That was a little cartoon that he drew when he was like 6 or 7 years old, with a story he wrote about aliens on Mars. And then he grew up to be a person that made the cameras for the Mars rovers and put the little character on there. So I think he like didn't get it officially approved by NASA, but he's like, well, it doesn't add any extra weight, so we'll just like put it in there and not tell anybody. So there's this little teeny tiny alien sitting on the calibration target, which I thought was so cute.
Wow. And speaking of Martians, can you tell us very quickly about askthemartian.com?
Yeah. So I decided to start recording more stuff for YouTube and other platforms. And so if you go to askthemartian.com, you can fill out any questions that you would like to see answered in a video. So make sure that they're YouTube friendly questions. But if we pick your question to go on air, I don't know why I'm saying we, it's not like I have a production team, it's me. If I pick your question, I will mail you a sticker that I've designed specifically for this purpose. So if you've ever had a question that you wanted to ask a Mars expert, askthemartian.com, and maybe you'll get it in a video.
That's cool.
That's
well,
awesome.
Thanks very much, Tanya. That's all great stuff. And everybody at home, of course, you can follow her at Tanya of Mars, but she's also of Moon, but you can find her at Tanya of Mars. Rico E. Anderson, by the way, you're an actor. Everybody loves watching you on television and movies. Can you tell us all what you're up to lately, by the way?
Yeah, well, as of this recording, the SAG-AFTRA strike is over, and we're back to work as far as the contract being ratified and everything. So we can talk about things. We can talk about Star Trek. We can talk about so many things. I have been blessed to have been in a couple of things that will be coming out. One thing that has already come out is a movie called Deadly Dilf. And it's on Tubi. It's not a porn, and so that's coming out. Or it actually is already out, so I'm in that. So check it out. Go to Tubi and watch it. I'm also on a new episode of a new show called Extended Family, starring John Cryer from 2.5 Men and Donald Faison from Scrubs.
Nice.
And it's a comedy. It's going to be on NBC. It's super duper funny. Shot that right before the strike, and that's going to be coming out sometime in 2024, I believe, either in the spring or early summer. So check that out. And of course, I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson is on Netflix. I'm in the new season of that. And of course, FBI International, where around this time last year, I was in Budapest, Hungary, shooting an episode of that. So check that out as well. Go to your local listings to find that out. And I just want to say something real quick. There are a lot of people during the strike who aren't in the industry, a lot of Trek fans, people who were just very supportive of all of us in the industry and didn't even know what was really going on in a lot of ways. But a lot of people did take the time to research and figure out why we're striking and what was going on and what were the issues and stuff like that. And a lot of support came out of that. Of course, from the Star Trek community, the fan support was just out of this world. So see what I did there. And from emails, from DMs to postings, and like people we all know personally, people who come out on the strike lines. A lot of support was there, a lot of love. So I just want to say publicly to everybody, thank you on behalf of all of us who are in the industry and who, really fought hard for our rights going forward and to be able to continue to provide this wonderful entertainment. Brian was out there, especially during Star Trek Day, which was a huge day for the obvious reasons. There were different themes different days that had different themes related to shows. So we had a Star Trek Day for people who didn't know. And shout out to all the actors who were out there, especially Michelle Hurd, Jerry Ryan, and just everybody. So I just wanted to take that moment to say to the people who continue to show love and support, thank you. Meant a lot. And hey, we're back, baby, and we're doing it. And Trek's moving forward. So
Rico's a real one, everybody. Speaking of which, Rico, where can people find you online?
At I am Rico Anderson on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Go to my website, ricoanderson.com. And hey, Google me. I'm all over the place. I'm all over the internet.
That reminds me of when Shaquille O'Neal said that to Charles Barkley. Do you remember that, you guys? When Charles Barkley was kind of questioning Shaq, and Shaq was like, Google me, Chuck. Google me. I don't know. It was just really, somebody out there is going to remember that. It was so funny. He's like, you don't know? I'm like a big deal. Google me, Chuck. Google. Anyway, it is time to move forward. Muhammad knows he's got his karate chop ready. He's been working out. It's time for the terrible twos.
Bottom line.
Some people call it the bottom line, but it's the terrible twos because it's the final two questions of the show. Question number one being, Dr. Muhammad Noor, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of Star Trek Prodigy?
I was thinking a 6. No, I'm just kidding. No, not at all. I actually have written down 9.4. I thoroughly enjoyed this show. Yeah, and actually, I didn't mention this earlier on. I mean, I think I don't remember if it was Tanya or Rico. One of y'all was mentioning the humor in it was great too. Like just the comment I wrote, that was one I didn't mention earlier. It's the quote from Zero: "Your chance of return was low. Our desire to leave remained high." Very practical. And then Dahl's reply: "I could be offended later." No, that with everything else, like the scoring, the great plot, the great character development, the ease of which falling, the nuggets for the Star Trek fans, the ease for those who are new to the universe. I mean, the minor quibbles I had are about as minor as you can get. So I loved it.
Right, and they were all minors, as both terms. Thank you, Tanya. What would you give this first episode of Prodigy, by the way?
I think I would also say 9 out of 10. It really blew my expectations out of the water since, like I said, I didn't really know what to expect, but being a cartoon and, like I said, not a general fan of cartoons, I shouldn't even say that. I just don't watch very many of them. So it's not a show that I would have immediately been compelled to watch if not for the Janeway tie-in, honestly. Like if she hadn't been in it, I'm not sure I would have watched the show to explore like why that was the case. Certainly though, hearing the hype online for how much people wanted this show to be continued, and seeing all of that trickle out, okay, I really should watch this as a self-proclaimed Trekkie. So yeah, I think they did an excellent job all around. 9 out of 10.
Rico E. Anderson, you're a tough cookie to crack. Wait, nut. What would you give this on a scale of 1 to 10?
Just call me a nut.
And a cookie.
I'm going to 10 it up, baby. I'm going to give it a straight up 10. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, I am a big proponent. And I just said this earlier, there's more than one way to tell a Star Trek story. I really appreciate thinking outside the box when it comes to storytelling and just in general. I mean, look, Deep Space Nine proved that telling a Star Trek story doesn't always have to be one particular way. Even Discovery proved that in its way of doing it more anthology based and just things like that. I appreciated what they did with this series. And sure, it's geared towards kids and all of that, but an adult can sit down and watch this and love the hell out of it. And I appreciated everything that was done. I am even forgiving the fact that people can fall onto straight up rocks and bounce right back and be like, hey, all right, let's keep it moving. It's all good. It's for kids. As kids, what do? We ran into brick walls, we fell, we got back up, shook ourselves off, and we kept that shit moving. Yeah. So it's naturally not too far-fetched that you could, no, kids, don't fall, don't jump anywhere and fall on a rock. Don't do that.
Plus, he's an alien.
The point is, we all
anything.
I loved it, and I just appreciated so much what was done and the chances that were taken. The music, come on, y'all. The scores, the composition, I mean, a lot of y'all already covered this. The execution, the voices, the Easter eggs, just all the things. It was fun. It's new Star Trek. It's adding to the 50+ years of, almost 60 years at this point, of what we know and love about this universe. There's more than one way to tell a Star Trek story. Star Trek Prodigy once again proved that, and I'm here for it, and you should be too. And that's it, and I'm done, and I'm leaving now. Bye. Oh, wait, we got more to go.
Yeah. Now, to quote my friend Rico E. Anderson, I'm a 10 it up, baby. I'm giving this thing a 10 because I feel like if you had a checklist of things that they wanted to do, they did it. The voice acting was great. The animation was great. The music was great. Above all, most importantly, the story was great. I think that they carved out a nook of fandom or potential fandom that has not been tapped into yet. And so I'm sorry I ended in a preposition, Muhammad. And so
I'll let it go this time.
Thank you. So they hadn't tapped into this yet so much. I mean, there are kids that watch Star Trek, sure, but this isn't just obviously a kid's show. It's a family show. And so this is a different realm of fandom that they really carved out, and they can put their flag down and claim as their own. It's a great story. It's very clear and obvious characters. It's a very clear and obvious story. If somebody asks you, what is the first episode of Star Trek Prodigy about, you could tell them. You wouldn't have to think about it and be like, well, it's kind of hard. It's weird. You just got to watch it to understand it. There's a lot of shows like that. This one, you could say, what is it about? It's about this. What's this character? This character is like this. Which character does this? And you could answer all these questions. It's very clear, and that's very important in a family show. They get a 10 from me, but that's question number 1. Question number 2 is crazy. For the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of Star Trek Prodigy, but now the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet. Dr. Muhammad Noor, would you of your own volition watch the second episode?
Heck yeah. That's the answer. Yes, I was very, very excited after the first one to watch the second one, and I'm excited for it that it's back on Netflix to watch it all again, and can't wait for season 2 to come out in 2024 sometime.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a yes.
Yeah.
What about you, Tanya? Would you of your own volition watch the second?
Oh, absolutely. I'll have to figure out if it's on Netflix in Canada or if they're streaming it somewhere else. But if it's on Netflix, I will restart my Netflix subscription to keep watching.
I think we heard that it was on CTV in Canada or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, Prodigy's been, the stuff up here is always in weird places. All the rest of Trek was still on Netflix, even though everything got pulled off of there in the States. Canada is its own universe when it comes to television.
Well, they've got their own space agency now, so maybe that's why. Wow, another yes. What about you, Rico E. Anderson? You're the tough cookie to whatever. Would you?
Clearly, I'm a nut, but that's even far between. Yes, of course I would. I would. I'm looking forward to rewatching this. And that was the other thing. I was really, really loving the fact that I love the rewatch. A lot of times with with stories, you when you rewatch something, you miss, you come across things that you maybe didn't kick in before and stuff like that. So I was loving this rewatch because it was literally like watching it all over again with a fresh perspective on top of what I already knew, what I already seen, things like that. It was a lot of fun. I will definitely watch the second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, and all the new seasons that are coming, baby. And I want to be on this thing too. So,
Yep.
I was like, you have a great voice for an alien. You should definitely be on this show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well,
when you also have a great voice for a human. I just realized that sounded like a weird compliment out of context.
Yeah, that's like you got a great voice for radio or a great face for radio compliment.
I could be a Cylon. Who knows?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, everybody, you may find this surprising to hear, but it is a yes from me as well. I would tell everybody why, but I feel like I covered some of it. But most importantly, because I want everybody to just go watch this show and decide for themselves. Check it out. It's on Netflix. You want to give it a big start. You want to tell your friends because you and your friends and your family want more shows like this. And you want more of this show. And the way to do that is by watching it on Netflix a ton and constantly and convincing your friends to do the same. And then guess what? You'll get way more of this. And then we'll all be happy because it's great stuff. It is a Star Trek story. It does expand the Star Trek universe, and it's freaking great. The people involved with it are amazing humans too, which is a gigantic bonus because you want good people to do well, and we're cheering for them and rooting them on. Check it out on Netflix, everybody. Infomercial over, but that is truly how I feel, and our 4 yeses confirm that we all feel the same way. So please, everybody, if you'd like us to review a show for January, in the comments below, type WTF and the show. For example, today you would have typed WTF Star Trek Prodigy on Netflix because you want to tell us where we can stream it, and then we will review it. Maybe. So that's it for us. What I'm trying to say, everybody, is this podcast was colorful AF.
This podcast was also for whole families.
This podcast was unexpected, but great.
This podcast was a wonderful continuation of honoring Star Trek.
Hell yeah. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate all of your time. And remember, please remember, Muhammad's already waving, but he's still got one more thing to say. Remember,
live logs and proper. I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg likes to say.
He likes to say, don't forget to be an organ donor and don't forget to watch the first of things.
All right, everybody. Freeze frame like Dreadnought. Ooh.
That shitty smile and pretend that